This is your friendly neighborhood atheist. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to The Perspective. I'm Ethan, and your hosts for the evening are Brian and Richard Gilliver. I'm always afraid I'm going to say that wrong. Richard, what's with the mask?
Ethan, I am your father. It's May the 4th, isn't it? But it's actually May the 5th where I am, but it's May the 4th for you.
May the 4th be with you, everyone. I totally forgot about that. I even asked Richard and Brian to come up with some Star Wars stuff, and then it just totally skipped my mind.
My background's got there's Star Wars Easter eggs behind me. Look for them.
Oh crap! Whoops! I hate when I forget.
Oh no! Who is that?
Now it's good.
Oh, Ethan, there you are.
Richard. So before we jump into calls, if you could, it's your first time on YFNA. Tell us a little bit about you.
I've started a recent YouTube channel in November last year. No idea what I was doing. Just plunged right in and talking about skepticism and things like that. And then we started a podcast with two other YouTubers, Richard Gill and Laura McGee, who's been on here recently. And we do that on a weekly basis. My shows tend to come out more monthly. Depends how much time I've got. Just rip stuff apart. That's kind of it.
Nice. Well, it was nice having your co-host last week here, and now we're having you. So I hope you're up to the task. You got some big shows to because Laura, I had told her I'd like to welcome her as a rotating regular co-host on the show. So Richard,
she really did do great.
Yeah,
she's
good.
The challenge.
I'll certainly try. I'm not going to be outdone by my co-host, am I?
All right. Well, I'm going to jump off screen, but before I do, I am going to welcome our first caller. So we have got a regular caller to the show, Isaiah, Scientific Evidence for God. You're on with Richard and Brian. What is up?
Hello, Ethan. Great to be back, and thank you.
Hey there, Isaiah. Good to talk to you again. We actually talked last week. Richard here, that's with me today, is co-host his own program with the Laura, who was with me when you talked to us last week. So he's excited to talk to you as well.
Yes. Hi, Brian.
Hi. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm. Hi, Richard. Very good. Yeah, I'm excited to speak with you too. I've looked at some of your videos on YouTube, and it seems you are more knowledgeable in a lot of the realms that I've drawn a lot of my information and inspiration from. So I'm excited both to share with you what I found.
Don't trust anything you
learn
say.
some things from you. I trust nothing. It's all in a spectrum of plausibility. But so what? Diving straight in, my perspective on all this is kind of where to even start. So I describe myself as a perennial panentheist. Panentheism, as you probably know, is all is within God. And I go a little further in that God is an infinite, that the universe is a finite realm within. And there is a relationship between the two. And that's where I look throughout both science and ancient mythos, because I think they had similar and common ideas. It wasn't just story passed down. It was, I think, both not only technological knowledge, but technical philosophical knowledge, whereas I'm excited to hear your perspective on.
Oh, right. Wow. This is right up my street. And as it happens,
Good.
I'm just going to click into here because I've got a scientific paper called Classic Hallucinogens and Mystical Experiences, Phenomenology and Neural Correlates by Frederick Barrett and Roland Griffiths here, which deals exactly with the perennial philosophy. So I've got that in front of me, and there are some things that I have difficulties with, and I'd like your take on them if you're happy to go through that.
Sure. So, yeah, my general perspective on it is, so from what I understand of the perennial philosophy is that all these different ancient religions and mystical traditions all kind of draw from the same source, and they have different shadings of kind of the same information told through different story form. I mean, it's not a 100% generality, but I think other people have found, and I myself have found, major trends in a lot of these stories, specifically like the Egyptian creation story, the Hindu one. There's a number of them in there. But boiling it all down, what I found is that the idea that these ancients started with was not of a nothing and then God creating stuff inside or from nothing or anything. It was this infinite, undifferentiated, absolute substance that just took up all available space forever, and there was no empty space for anything separate to exist or anything to move. So if there's no empty space to move, it's technically before time is possible to be measured. So this would be where this God, this infinite substantial God, is outside of space and time as we measure it here in the universe, because we have empty space. Stuff moves, stuff changes, and we can measure that rate of change. So time would begin when an empty space is inflated or made within the infinite substantial God.
So can I just, I don't know whether the word infinite or infinity would be properly used if you're talking about outside of a temporal framework. Am I wrong in that assumption?
The way I interpret it, again, it's not like a linear infinity. It's not like infinite time or a sequence of anything. It's infinite volume. In other words, there's no outer edge. It just goes on forever. A voluminous, substantial infinity. And technically, if it does exist and it has no border, there can only be one of them, logically, as I reason.
So, do you mind if I just backtrack a little bit? Because it's all very... I don't mind talking about infinity. We can talk about infinity if you want. I don't really see any productiveness in that, because we can talk about one idea of infinity and another idea of infinity. I want to unravel what you said about the different religions having the same kind of ideas. If you're happy to do that, I'm more than happy to go down that route. I want to know specifically kind of what within religions you think is this connecting value, what you need to reject to get that connecting value, all this. Is there anything specific you have that you can say, this is what I think connects them all together?
Yes. Yeah. So let's get specific with the Egyptian mythos of creation happening. So there was, as I understand it, the god Nun or Noon is this watery mass that just fills all space, and Nun makes a bubble inside of itself, and inside the middle of the bubble arises Ra on the primordial mounds in the center of this bubble, and symbolizes the sun. He's the creator god, and then he speaks all of creation, or all the things inside the bubble, into existence. So this idea of the space of creation being formed within an original infinite, I also find in Brahman, in the Hindu story, that the Brahman is this undifferentiated, infinite, substantial material reality that all phenomenal reality draws its existence from. And then you have the story of Vishnu. He's reclining on Anantasesha, the infinite remainder, and they're both on this infinite ocean. And then As like in a dream, a lotus comes out of his navel, and the four-headed god Brahman, who is the creator god inside the lotus of the universe, is the creator aspect inside the universe versus the infinite god that is outside the universe. So, and then parallels in that I find in Tiamat in the Babylonian legends. Tiamat is a primordial oceanic goddess. Her body is cut in half, and the heavens and earths are made out of her body parts. Same idea as Ymir in the Norse, primordial ice giant whose body is separated and all of existence is fashioned from its body. Same story in Aztec, Tlaltecutli or Tukuk, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but she was a primordial mud earth monster that was cut apart by the creator brothers, and all of the heavens and earth were made out of her body parts. So that's the similar story form that I find when you kind of look past anthropomorphism, look past the personality or ego aspects of these god stories, and just looking at the fundamental physical mechanics of it. That's one of the significant ones that I find.
Let's take that piece right there and talk about it a little bit. So you got different mythologies. You got your like Leviathan, Tiamat, these giant monsters that were slain at the beginning of the beginning of existence, essentially. I do have a friend named Richard Madsen who has some wild ideas on that. So look him up if you're interested in to delve it into some of those mythologies. But to connect
what was the name again?
Across Richard Madsen.
Richard Madsen. Okay, thank you.
Yep, he's a fun guy. But to connect all these together based on the similarities, we can't ignore the differences, because then we start moving into like a Texas sharpshooter fallacy, or maybe into a gambler's kind of what do they call it, gambler's gauntlet or whatever. What
I'm not trying to equate them.
Oh, I know. You try. We're looking at it. You're looking for like a common thread that runs through humanity, right? Like the
symbolic application of it too, because that comes directly after, and then it starts surfacing in many different traditions. The symbolism that comes from pure basic physics when applied to an infinite. Now, this part's really, really cool to me. It's just really simple. The principle of balance, the principle of for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So it's not just some willy-nilly creation event. And it wouldn't even be creation in the technical sense. It would be formation, that what was in a formless state becomes into a formed state that has edges within a space. So real quick, in order to make an inflated space for anything else to exist inside this infinite, in equal opposite reaction, it moves also to the center of that space. It's like a bidirectional contraction. It contracts outward from the bubble to form the outer periphery, and it contracts inward to the center of that bubble to make a nucleus. Now, this is in the name of Ra. It's one of his major hieroglyphic symbols, is the circle around the dot. And it's a major religious symbol throughout many different traditions. And I find it interesting that if this is the universe, and that's like the vibrating container that's patterning everything inside, well, what is it patterned for? If that's the macro quantum container, what's its note? If that's the instrument body, what shape does it make inside of itself? And
okay, can I just interrupt? Do you mind if I interrupt for just 1 second?
Go for it.
I want to just rewind a little bit, because we're getting a lot of stuff about symbolism, a lot of stuff about primordial matter, but I still don't see how these are equating to these religions across the world. A circle inside another circle is not, from my knowledge, a universal symbol. Yes, the idea that, for example, you get balance, yeah, that is in stuff, but you've got like Wu Wei in Taoism, which is described as going with the grain. And then you've got things in Buddhism, which the method is going against the flow. So they're not matching up. These things aren't matching. They may be symbolically very similar, But when you actually get into the nitty gritty about the mythology and stuff like that of them, they're completely different. So I'm not really following how. Sorry, go on, please.
I'm just saying I would expect it to be different, especially when dealing with the human psychological aspect of religious practices or spirituality. But
these aren't religious practices that I'm talking about. These are the actual methodology of actually achieving the things in the religion, of achieving what would be that connection to what would be called a universal consciousness. This is the actual methodology, not just the symbolism, not just the psychology of it. And it's a completely different process. And this is what I'm not following with what you're saying.
Okay. Well, I would say that different processes work for different people and different approaches. And one of my favorite sayings is that there's one mountain, but there's many paths up the mountain. And some just circle the mountain and never reach the top. And you can walk up the mountain forwards or backwards, and you'll still get to the summit. So there are traditions of renouncing everything and reaching the ultimate realization that way. And another is embracing everything. Again, that's a personal experiential path to what could be called samadhi or the religious experience, and that's not really what I'm talking about. My focus and what I'm trying to both explore and get perspective on is like the nitty gritty of how the stuff, what we're made of, and the stuff around us is made of, like the technology of creation itself. And this gets into vibration theory, quantum field theory, real easily. And it's the idea that there are specifically shaped fields that vibrate that make.
Okay, but let me just interrupt one more time. I'm really sorry, but we tend to be going off again. We've gone from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. We're not really getting a chance to explore any particular thing. And we can talk about quantum field theory. I can't talk about quantum field theory all day long, so I know nothing about it. But if you were talking to someone who did, you could talk about that all day long. But that still doesn't get this. I'm interested in what you talked about at the very beginning when you said there's a universal a kind of truth that we're all connected to through all the different traditions. This is what I'm not following, because I don't see that at all.
Okay.
This is what I want to concentrate on.
In some of the oldest traditions, that like the further back I go, I find the same type of story and mechanism.
Okay.
And
the furthest back we go is Gilgamesh, right? Is that how far back you're going?
Babylon, Egypt and the Hindu cultures and even Mesoamerican cultures go back that far. So there's one theory is that we had a type of a worldwide human culture prior to 13,000 years ago. There was a massive comet strike that reset civilization, and both the Sumerians and the Egyptians say they got their story from the gods. The gods came down, they taught them these things, they taught them math and agriculture and all that. That's their story of true or not true. What I think a parallel is, if there was a previous human civilization, they could very easily pose as gods to a more primitive tribe or more primitive tribe of man that exists hundreds of years later after this great catastrophe.
The thing is here, though, what we've got here is the native Australians said the same thing. They get their stories from the gods. They're a much later people, and the stories, it seems to me quite natural.
So the Australian people, humans have been in Australia for 40,000 years. Been in North America for 8 to 15,000 years. I just wanted to clarify all this, and then the islands in Oceania between about 13 BCE or 1300 BCE to about 1300 AD. Or CE. All right, sorry. Go ahead. Now continue.
But they've got stories of spacemen coming down. They're not the same stories. They don't have the same correlations. It seems far more probabilistic I really can't speak, to assume that this is a natural thing. You're looking up at the stars, you're getting these ideas, you're looking at the natural world around you, you're getting these ideas. We know that we can trace from about 50,000 years ago when the first bone art was done. You can trace the kind of symbolism, how people interact with the world, and up until the Neolithic ages, where people first started formalizing the formal religions, and they come together, and you can see exactly where religion starts as a formal thing and warfare starts as a formal thing that parallel each other, because it's when people settle down, they stop being nomadic. It's a natural kind of progress. It seems far more, it's an easier explanation than this kind of perennial philosophy where you have to pick and choose a little bit from here, a little bit from here. I like that bit, I want to dismiss that because it doesn't quite fit.
What the 13th? Go ahead.
I would just like to ask what time period should I look into for that transition period, like when the religion started being shared and then parallel with warfare?
It depends where you are in the world. It's the Neolithic period goes from it varies from where you are in the world.
Well,
I'm from Britain. I'm speaking from a British standpoint. That's the area where I'm familiar with, and with the research I'm familiar with. And you're talking.
You want to?
Okay.
200. Yeah, about 200,000 years ago. I'm sorry, I keep stepping on you. I get excited when we start talking about science and ancient times and stuff. But look back about 200,000 years to what we have from that time period, as far as where humans were and how our societies were set up. There's also when you get back that far, it's not just Homo sapiens. You have I think there was, you get back that far, I think it's 3 or 4 different species of Homo that were roaming the earth. So all right. Well,
let me share with you real quick the major symbols I found, because there's 4 of them. And the first one is the circle around the dot. The next tier of that same symbol, so it's a stacking symbol, is a square star, which is a square superimposed over a rotated 45-degree another square. And that is a 2-dimensional representation of a star tetrahedron, which is a tetrahedron superimposed over a upside-down tetrahedron. So in relating this to science, and from what I can just pull together, that this would be the first fundamental field of space-time, and it has 8-fold symmetry. So I would look for something like octonions, which are way beyond my mathematical education level, but they're finding octonions describing the transformation of subatomic particles and how they appear. So again, this is way beyond my education, but it's like, there's a neat connection. I need to follow up on that. And
where are you getting this connection from? What are you just looking at the symbols and thinking that looks like a mathematical symbol of something else? Are you getting these symbols and actually looking at the ancient texts in relation to them and getting a description from them?
Both. One is through the symbolism, and another is through the logic of how it arises from infinity in the first place. So the most basic description of any voluminous field that has equal tension is a tetrahedron. You need 4 points that are off plane from each other to describe 3-dimensional space. And if it's all in equal tension in all directions, then you've got a perfect tetrahedron, 4 equal points, 4 equal sides, 4 equal lines. So if that field both moves up and down at the same time to make a voided space, then the field representation left inside that space is an upward pointed tetrahedron and a downward pointed tetrahedron.
Okay, guys, this is getting really technical.
So
before we get too deep into it, I want to shout out some very generous people in the live chat who are showing me and Richard and you, Isaiah, some love by throwing some super chats at us. We have Philip said, have fun, guys. We are having fun. This conversation has been like all over the place fun. Then we have, of course, a sticker from Kyle, maybe some discernment there. And of course, if anybody's not keeping up with what's going on with Ethan, he's getting settled into his new place, and him and Bandaid are unpacking boxes. So we will be thanking Normalizing Atheism for that. Wow, $49.99. That is super generous. So much love for Normalizing Atheism.
Mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo indeed. And Philip actually said Richard is correct. I can't listen live right now, so this is just an assumption.
Philip has got an amazing mind. It's corrected me several times. It's got a fantastic philosophical mind. I love the guy.
All right, Isaiah. Sorry to leave you hanging. I know you kind of had the last word there, and we'll save that for next time because we do have some calls to bounce over to. But it's always great talking to you, and we look forward to you calling back.
Oh, you're welcome. And just the last thing is that 8-point symbolism is found in baptismal fountains, like to baptize for the Holy Spirit, also found between the chapters of the Quran. It's just interesting as a space divisor. So that's where I found it in religion. And thank you very much for the conversation and the extra places to look for information. Cheers, Richard. Cheers, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Just a quick shout out, by the way, before we start. If you've got anything to say to me in the chat, please do it through a super sticker because I'm not actively watching the chat. So if you've got anything if you disagree with me, please send a super sticker. Pay for it. Pay Ethan to tell me how much you dislike me.
And I will read it with a smile on my face right here on, to Richard. And tell him how much you like him. I'll read that with a smile on my face too. Don't no problem at all. Our next call is Natasha, and I'm gonna bring her on now. Hey there, Natasha. You're on with Brian and Richard. What's going on?
Hi, Natasha.
Hey, I'm just going to tell my story and what I strongly believe, I guess, on the whole religion and aliens and ghosts. Well, basically spirits.
All right, we are all ears. Have you had a personal experience though, or is it going to be just a general idea?
No, it's a personal experience. I'll go ahead and start a little bit. I guess I'll just tell you a story, and if you have any questions, you can ask. All my life, I've always been ghosts or whatnot, but I used to work at a jail. This guy was telling us how he took photos of this demon in one of the pods. So I talked this other young boy into doing it with me, the Ouija board. We had a riot every day for a whole month. It was so bad that we didn't even tell anybody what we did up there because it was terrible. And I've seen a ghost in there before, but the ghost I'm not afraid of. That thing was ridiculous, though, all those fights and stuff. So anyways.
A riot?
Out of all that, yeah, like
what do we mean by riot?
And being threatened. Oh, I even got threatened. Oh, it's ridiculous, but it's whatever. Anyways, okay, so there was a guy that used to work there, and he was Hispanic, and we were talking about aliens, and I knew my dad talked about aliens. So I decided to pray. For about 2 years, I prayed to go see a UFO. I was like, Lord, before I die, let me see a UFO. So I normally go running at nighttime, right? And, well, you don't know, but I enjoy doing it. I lived here all my life, so I go up in the field, and we're surrounded by woods. So I'm going down the field, up and down, and then I hear this weird noise, and it sounded like a deer, but it sounded weird, so I thought, deer with rabies? So I casually turned around at the height that I thought that the deer would be, and the thing was taller, and it was solid white, and it was super skinny, and it had an oval head, and it was an alien. So then I thought, oh my God, it's a man who's going to rape me. And then I was like, no, it's an alien. And then I was like, no, it's a man in an alien suit who's going to rape you. So I turned around, and I started running. Well, no, actually, I screamed at him. I screamed with my arms up in the air. And then I screamed with my arms up in the air for about a good minute. Like I did a whole circle. And then I come back to it again. And I was like, you dumbass, you need to put your arms down and run. So, oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. So anyways, I took off running. And then I was like, shit, he's tall as crap. you need to turn around and see how fast he's running up on you, because if he's running up on you, you need to fall on the ground and trip him, because there's nobody there, and I already screamed and nobody heard me. It was like 8 o'clock at night. So I turn around to see where he is, and then it's casually walking back into the woods. And it was 7 foot tall, super, super skinny. Like its whole body matched how it was supposed to look for how weird it looked.
Were you in the woods when you were?
It was like.
Were you in the woods when you first encountered him? Were you in the open? Were you in the woods?
No, it was in the field. It was in the field. The field that I normally run. I've always ran that field at nighttime. But
have you ever do you run into people there? Is that
no? Oh. No, because I was screaming for help and nobody came to my rescue. And the whole time I was thinking, like, I had time to think, oh my God, you're going to die. And then it was like, no, you're going to get raped, because my mind kept trying to tell me it was a human, but it did not look human. And it did not sound like any animal I've ever heard, because like I said, I thought it sounded like a little bit like a deer, only it's not as rough. It's more smoother and high pitched. So I thought deer with rabies, because I have a phobia of animals with rabies. So,
okay.
I'm trying to process everything
hold on,
properly.
just real quick before we move forward. There was a word that was used there that we want to try to avoid saying on air, because it may.
Okay. No cursing. I'll try.
Yeah.
Okay. No cursing.
Yeah. Just
no cursing.
Just for now. Okay. Thank you. Go on with your story.
Okay. So anyway, I run back home, and the whole time I'm thinking, dear, no one's going to find me. It's going to take me. No one's going to find me. So I run back home. Okay. So I tell everybody, but nobody believed me, and it hurt my feelings. So I decided, don't tell nobody no more. Well, I'd say this. Okay, so I'm one with pattern. I like pattern, and it has to be a certain way. And so one day I have dogs. I have a lot of dogs, actually. And one of them, the shock collar stopped working. So I put it on the back porch until I could get the battery for it. And she's a good dog. She's German Shepherd. Well, I'm laying in bed and something wakes me up, and I've heard plenty of car accidents. It sounded like a car hit another car. That's how loud it was. I shot up, and it should have been so loud it should have shook the house, but it didn't. And it woke Boomer up, my husband. So I was like, Boomer, did you hear that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, you want to go check it out? And he was like, no. And I was like, neither do I, because I'm still scared about the aliens. So I laid there, but I'm very courageous. So about an hour, I decided to get up. So I got up, checked on my dog. Dog was still on the back porch. Looked out front, seeing if there was any accident. No accident. Ate a half a bagel. I always eat a half a bagel. Went to bed, woke up again. Okay. So I come downstairs to. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Just I had some more questions about the original sighting before we get too far into the story. Is there a stop? Yeah, if you want to finish this part, there's a stopping point we can get to.
Yeah.
I have lots of questions.
That's fine. Okay. Look. Anyways, point B is I thought someone come in my house, like a drunk person come in my house and wrecked it, because this is what I gather. It must have been studying or whatever, because I'll say this much. My dogs kept barking at nighttime in the woods, and that's not like them normally. They normally shut up when I tell them to shut up. So I go downstairs, and the back porch is a mess, and my dog's not on the back porch. And I'm like, where's my dog? So I was like, oh my gosh, someone broke in my house, or someone wrecked my house. So I was like, okay, found my dog. She was in the yard. It's kind of weird how, and literally everything on the back porch was rearranged to look like somebody was trying to leave my back door and found out my dog was back there. So they slid the glider between them, the door, and the dog, to block the doorway. Well, I went to go eat my bagel. Half my other piece of my bagel was missing. So now I'm heated. I'm like, okay, well, somebody ate my bagel, and somebody wrecked the back porch for me to have to clean up. The only thing I can gather was it must have been watching me for a little while, and that big bang had to have been that whatever the time travel or whatever the travel is, because it woke me up. It was loud, and it should have shook the house.
Was this the same night? Was it the same night that you had encountered the?
No, it was nope. It wasn't actually. It was a series. So after I saw it, then all of a sudden my baby starts crying almost every night for 3 months. And within that time period, a month after I saw the alien was when I heard the big bang noise.
How old was your baby?
So there was some, he's 4 years old now. He don't do it no more. But when I had my baby, he was a year old. He was a year old when I saw the alien. He was a year old. And then for 3 months, he cried every night. Oh, it sucked. And I was like, what the heck is doing it? And I kept trying to reason with myself, like, no, it's not the alien, because I feel crazy. But I know
that's why
what
I was asking how old he was, because that's when some teeth eruption starts happening. I was wondering if maybe that was something to do with it.
Do you mind if we jump back just a little bit? Because you keep referring to this thing you saw as an alien, but I've yet to establish why you're calling it an alien. You've bumped into something. You wasn't sure if it was a person or a creature. Why are you jumping to alien?
No, I know what it was. It was literally standing, and I don't understand why it yelled. That's another thing. I think its suit malfunctioned because I had my head down. I was looking at the ground. I was singing to myself because that's what I do. I think and sing while I run or walk down the hill. And it waited till it was literally 2 yards behind me. It was close. It was so close.
So what features did it have to make you call it an alien? I understand that there's the pop culture depiction of aliens.
It was white. It was really it was a white. It was beautifully white, and it had a big oval head, and it was like 8 foot tall. It was 8 foot tall. That thing was tall. I had to lift my head up to look at it. And no, it had a full body suit on because it was a full moon. You could see everything. You could see the whole field. That's why I like running at nighttime. But you couldn't see features, and I was close enough to see features. It could see me. I know it could see me, my face. But I could see. You could see shadow features, but not like the feature of like the eyes and the mouth. So it made me think it was. And the suit, it was either naked or it had a full white suit on. And why did it scream? Why did it scream when I was behind it? So it makes me think that maybe it malfunctioned and it was seen, like it could tell that it's been seen and it thought that I saw it or it freaked it out.
What time of night did you say that was?
It was in October.
What time?
Either. I'm sorry.
What time of night? What time of day?
Oh, it was around. It was like between 11 and 9 o'clock. It really wasn't that late.
But it was dark. It was close to the woods, illuminated by moonlight. You were running.
Bump into a tall figure in the
woods. That's another thing. It was in the middle of the field. And it's like, how did you get here? Because I'm looking down the way. You let me walk 2 yards past you before you popped up. And it was a lot of yards away from the wood line. Like I'm on a trail, 4-wheeler trail, and it's in the middle of the field. So it actually had to friskily walk back into the wood line. I should have followed it, but I was
okay. Hold on. We gotta start wrapping up here. I'm sorry, we're getting too far into it, but this is very interesting.
Because of that, let me wrap it up real quick. But because of that, I lost my religion. I was like, where the heck does God come into everything? And then I realized, you know what? There is one superior one. He is an alien, but he is superior to all of them. The aliens also have to follow by the same rules that we do. And I do think that they kind of shaped us a little bit. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you, Natasha. I do appreciate your call today. It's just we got a lot of calls to get through still, and we're about approaching the halfway point. So I'd like to wish you a pleasant evening, and unless Richard had any closing words for you.
I'd just suggest having a look back and seeing if maybe there was some kind of misinterpretation there. That's what it sounds like to me. But yeah, it's been wonderful listening to your story, and thank you so much for calling in.
Right. That was we're getting all kinds of different calls. You're getting really trial by fire here, Richard.
Just a little bit.
You had some deep philosophy. Now we have aliens. I always, and Ethan knows, I always love the alien calls. I just, they always entertain me. Let's see, who do we have next in our lineup? We've got Mike from Ohio. Hey there, Mike. You are on with Brian and Richard. How you doing tonight?
Hi, Mike.
Hey, I'm doing good, fellas. How you doing?
Really good, thank you.
Good.
All right. And you have a claim for us?
I'm driving in this truck right now, so you have to speak up a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now? So it says
Yes,
to
I
here that
can.
you wanted to talk about a journey from atheism to Christianity. You talked to Ethan before, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Did you have a different topic in mind tonight?
Well, he messaged me and asked me if I wanted to call into the show, and I thought that he had a question for me, or he wanted to follow up with our conversation, or, I just called in. Just
I'm interested in your story.
Or I'm just kind of, I'm just listening to the show. It's kind of all over the place tonight, really.
Yeah, we've got a lot of different points of view. So you are a Christian, and you used to be an atheist.
Yes.
Did something, some kind of event in your life occur? I'm sorry if I'm making you rehash stuff you told all before, but new host here, so we are interested in listening to what you have to say.
So just to kind of go back, I was like complete atheist. I had no belief whatsoever, and somebody invited me to church, and he kept bothering me, and I decided to go just to get him off my back, and I sat in the very back of the church. And at the end of the service, all I could think about was leaving and, just going and living my life and doing what I did. And I was standing there at the altar, and to this day, that was in 1998. I don't know how I got to the altar, other than when the Lord spoke to me the first time I heard the voice inside my heart. He said that I was too stupid to go to the altar by myself, that he had to carry me there, and he had to show me that he was real. And it was that moment in my life that I was never able, from that moment in April of 1998 to this present day, to say that there is no God, and to say that Jesus Christ isn't who he says he is, because that's who I kind of came face to face with that night. And my whole life, the whole direction of my life changed after that moment. I haven't been the same since. Can
I get some clarification? Can I get some clarification on the terms there? You said spoke to your heart. Could you describe that experience?
So a lot of people ask if it's like an audible voice, or if it's something that you hear on the inside, that all you can say is, I heard it on the inside. I heard him speak to my heart, my spirit. And that's where God always speaks to me, is inside my spirit. Tonight, just driving in the truck and just through prayer, I have some friends that are going through some really hard times, and I've just been in prayer for them. And, I hear the Lord's voice, giving me words to say.
So
go ahead,
Mike. Well, it's let's say it's Star Wars Day, May the 4th. Do you like Star Wars?
Sort of. I don't know much. I've watched it, but okay. I'm not like a
I just want to know how you know that
anything.
Wasn't the Force touching your heart. What methodology would we use to discern that it was God and not the Force?
So, because I never heard anything speak inside of me, like to speak to my spirit, until that day, right? So I was 1998. I was 20 years old. I'm 43 now. And it's just a personal experience, because I heard people speak about how they've never heard the voice of God, but they have an intuition about God. They know what God wants them to do, and they do it, but they don't hear anything. I've also heard people in other faiths, like Buddhism, where they meditate, and through meditation they come in contact with God in their own way.
Perfect. Mike, I need to stop you. I need to stop you here. I've been practicing Buddhist meditation for 20 years. I know a lot about meditation and the internal feelings and the internal voices that you get from it. So let's go down that route. Let's have a look, a compare and a contrast, and see if what you're experiencing is what is actually experienced in Buddhist meditation. So I've had feelings. I've had great feelings of peace, of warmth, of love, not through any God figure, but because I'm settled down. I'm settled into a calm state of mind. I'm in a peaceful state of mind. I'm internalizing things. I'm asking internal questions. I hear an inward voice, but it's not from any kind of like external thing coming inwards. It's an internal conversation you have with yourself. I'm interested. I'm very, very interested in this initial feeling that you had when you first went to the church and you got to the altar. I'm really, really interested in this experience. What kind of church was it, if you don't mind me asking? Was it was it a song and dance church? Was it a quiet, reflective church? What was the kind of experience in the church before the experience you had?
Okay, so prior to that experience, all I was in was dead churches where I experienced nothing. And then this was a Pentecostal church where people were singing loud and praising God. And, you know, like the people were kind of like more into the move of God than just sitting in a pew and hearing somebody talk about God.
Are you Pentecostal now?
So, no, I'm not. I went to Pentecostal Bible College too, and I kind of stay away from it now. Not that I don't believe in it, but there's too many weirdos in there, you know? And I'm not a weirdo. I don't want to be a weirdo. That's what gives Christianity a stigma, you know, is the weirdness about it. And
we're all weird, dude.
I'm
sitting here with bugs and
but the things that people do, but what people do to try to get God's attention, you know, like I don't have to go anywhere and be in front of anybody to get God's attention. I could be in a truck alone all day and God's with me. I don't have to be there to do that. And, you know, and how people just like, you know, they have these like revival services and, you know, and fire and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, why don't you just go to your prayer closet, man? And just
how are you differentiating, Mike, between the internal voice, which could be an internal dialogue with yourself, and an outward supernatural voice coming into you? What is the distinction you're making between the two? How do you know it's God and not just an internal dialogue?
Well, because when God speaks, it's either something that I need an answer for that only he can give me. And then when it's something like outside of me, you know, I mean, I guess I've heard outside voices and I've heard things that have harmed me, you know, calling it God and it isn't God. I've done that before. And that's part of the reason why, too, I kind of would prefer to be quiet when I seek God more than just in a crowd of people yelling to God. Because we know when you got too many voices around you, it's kind of hard to know which one's God or not, because everybody wants what they hear to be God. And I don't care if what I hear, if anybody else believes it or not, you know, it's between me and God. And that's how I know it's internal. It's him, because it doesn't matter what anybody else says to me. It's for me, you know.
No, I'm not talking about external voices, though, Mike. I'm not asking you about external voices. I'm asking you about inward dialogue. How do you differentiate between your own inward dialogue?
Like, you know, like I have my dad's voice in my head when I'm like looking under the hood of my car. I have my dad's voice in my head telling me to do this and check that. How do you know it's not a something that you're engaging with inside your mind to kind of instruct you on how to?
Okay, because my thoughts and God's voice are two different things. And my inner voice and God's voice are not the same thing. What I tell myself daily and what God speaks to me are not the same thing. It's different. It has a different tone to it. There's a softness with God's voice. There's a calmness with God's voice. There's a assurance too, where I doubt myself a lot. You know, because
I get the same thing from the my dad's voice though that I was talking about. So it's not my voice, and these aren't my messages. My dad wants me to do things to my car that I don't have any interest in doing at all, but it does take care of the car. So change the oil or whatever. You need to change your oil. You put this many miles on it. Oh, come on, Dad. I don't feel like doing it, and then I have to go do it. But that's not something I want to do. It's not my own voice instructing me to do it. It's this construct of my father in my head who taught me how to take care of a vehicle. You get what I'm saying, though? Why we're asking about how do you?
You've heard your dad's voice your whole life, so of course you're going to hear your dad's voice in your head. You've put it there. You know what it sounds like, and you know what he says to you. So things will pop up in your head through your own conscience because you've heard it your whole life. Like my mom's voice, and my grandpa. My grandpa would say things to me, and today, my grandpa's been dead since 2008, and the things he said to me that I didn't listen to when I was a kid, I listen to it now because what he was saying to me was something I needed to hear, and I didn't want to hear it then. But he
okay,
still
Mike,
said
we've
it,
got
and
a
those
question
words
for
still
you
got in
from
my head.
Yeah.
Mike. We've got a question from you for chat. What does life look like if God's not really with you, but you just think he is? That's a question from Blaine.
$10. He wants to know there, Mike.
So the difference is between if I think God is with me and if God is really with me. So I've been there too, right? My Christianity is nothing but step to step to step to step. I have always had this thing in me where I wanted God to be a certain thing. We all want that. But then who is God for real? And when God shows me who he really is, that's not me. I have nothing to do with that. I just obey it. I just surrender to him because he's God and I'm not.
Has he ever said anything to
my own voices?
Mike, has he ever said anything to you that which you don't agree with? Has he ever said anything which has kind of pushed you into thinking, well, this is not me, I don't agree with this, but it's coming from God, so I should really go in that direction?
Like Abraham moment.
Okay, so there's, yes. Go ahead.
No, that's what I was.
There's a lot about scripture.
Yeah, I was just clarifying that. Yeah, like an Abraham moment where God's telling you to do something that you really don't want to do, but you need to do it because God's telling you to do it. Have you ever had a moment like that?
Yes. So I just say something simple as moving back to my hometown. That was so simple. I have felt it in my spirit for 5 years to be back home and to help in the recovery scene because I'm in recovery too. I was an alcoholic and a drug addict through my teenage years, and then I got saved, and then I went to rehab, and I moved to Mississippi and found God or whatever, and I know how to stay sober. And so the Lord, like Jonah, in Nineveh, where he was in the belly of the whale because God kept telling him to go to Nineveh, and he kept going to all these other towns. And so God had to put him in the belly of a whale and spit him out into Nineveh. So he would go speak to Nineveh because he was like, no one's going to listen to me anyways. Why would I want to go there? They're not going to hear me. And that's kind of what I was like. Like I'm like, I don't want to go back there because, who the hell's going to listen to Mike DeMarco? Well, look, pretty much a lot of people do, because I've been sober for 22 years and I know what I'm talking about. And
congratulations on your sobriety, by the way.
Yeah, keep up that good work there.
And I doubted him. Like most humans do, like Moses, Moses doubted God all the time. And all the time he doubted God. God told him to speak and he's like, I need someone else to speak for me. Give me someone else to speak, your words. And
there's an overarching
God did. God
theme.
gave him someone else to speak.
There's kind of an overarching theme in the Old Testament of prophets not trusting what God's telling them and having a bad time, and the Israelites being kicked around again because the prophets didn't believe what God was telling them to do, and it was always some things like go kill these people or make these kind of offerings or whatever. It was kind of a scary time to be alive back then if you think about it. People say, oh, my God just said to kill you. Well, Mike,
I agree with you. Like when it comes to go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say we're probably going to go ahead and wrap up the call because we got a few more waiting and we're running short on time. I'll give you the last word, though. How about that?
So when I read the Old Testament and I see just the meanness of God, you know, like the hatred of God, and that people were who got that from him, you know, and it was like idolaters or homosexuals or people with gross sexual lifestyles or people who, you know, who lied and stole or what, you know, those kind of circumstances. Well, the difference between that and now is we still have all them kinds of people in the earth. We're still humans. We have never changed who we are. And Christ has like made that, you know, where we can all come to him with whatever we have, even if I think that a certain person, you know, is like completely against God. It's really none of my business anymore because of Christ. And it's my job with these people I don't agree with to love them because they're just people. Where religion, this is why I kind of have a hard time with what I've been taught, you know, when it, you know, this harsh judgment towards minorities or towards gays or towards Muslims or towards whoever. And it's like, once I got free from judging them, my whole life changed, you know, having that harshness, because Christ doesn't have the harshness. He didn't show harshness in the New Testament. He like did away with all that, you know? And I believe the harshness will come at the end if that's what God sees fit to give us. But for now, we're in grace.
I think that Christ was.
Come to God.
I think that Christ was a little bit harsh in which gospel was it? The one where he whipped the guys, he flipped over the table. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, religious people.
No, Christ did that.
People. That's who he was the harshest towards.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering about that.
Why was he? So ask yourself, why was?
So
he
you've just admitted then that you're, Mike. You've literally just admitted that you're better than Christ, because you've said since you got sober, you're good with religious people of other faiths. You're good with Muslims now. You're good with Jews, and yet you just acknowledge that Christ wasn't. Christ got angry with them and flipped tables over. That tells me you're better than him.
Actually, it was because of the type of religious people they were. They were hypocrites. They were nasty people. That's why he
Pharisees.
They were saying they were about him, and they weren't. He said, "You don't know my Father. You know, my house is a house of prayer, not a den of thieves." And he flipped the tables. You know, because they were like stealing money. They were there to sell things.
Well, this is a topic that I'd really like to.
They were.
Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off.
God, and he says, "No, you're not." You know, that's what that was. He's like, "You're not the representation of God. Stop!" And he flipped the table. You know.
Yeah.
Why did he show us that? So we don't.
This is a topic that I'd love to dig into sometime. So next time I'm on, give me a call back, because I want to talk about this some more with the some of the different versions of the New Testament. I really like to dig into that stuff. But we're gonna bounce on to the next caller now. So Mike, you have a good evening. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for your call, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Before we go to the next call, can I just address Stiletto Larray, I think it is, was asking if we're anti-theist. I'm not an anti-theist, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't define myself as an anti-theist either. I don't think that all religion is necessarily bad, so I don't I don't take that position. So yeah. All right. I think the next caller we have is Andrew. Let me pull Andrew up. Andrew from Ohio. He wants to talk about the 9/11 conspiracy theory. All right. Hey, what's up, Andrew?
Hi. Thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Nice to meet you guys.
Yep, you're on with Brian and Richard, and we're here to. You're going to debunk the conspiracy theory. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, well, I don't know which one's the most popular. That the buildings were controlled demolition, or no plane hit the Pentagon, or Flight 93 was shot down. But I believe in the official story. And I think the 9/11 Commission report did a pretty good job in explaining how the buildings imploded, how the hijackers were able to take care of hijack the airplane, and things like that. I just wanted your guys' opinion on your on what you think happened on 9/11.
I'm on board with the official story as well. I don't know that everything was handled the best way that it could have been on the ground, but who can go back and retrospectively say, oh, we should have done this, we could have done that. We can all sit there and do that, but to try to make it out like there was something nefarious going on with those people on the ground that were there trying to save people's lives kind of boils my blood a little bit. I mean, I can't lie. How about you, Richard?
No, I'm on board. I've not. It's not something I've really looked into as a conspiracy theory, but it's no problem. I share your view on it, Andrew. I think it's just all above board, and as the report says, I see no reason to doubt it. I've not looked into this specific conspiracy theory. I have looked into other conspiracy theories. They tend to follow a pattern, conspiracy theories, which even when the evidence comes forward and the people who want to follow the conspiracies use that as part of the conspiracy because they just don't want to accept it. There's nothing nefarious about it. It is what it is. It was a tragic event, and the report on it is pretty much what it says.
You get that same mind. You get that same mindset of people that do the denial of the school shootings and stuff, or that they're all actors and stuff like that. People start buying into that kind of stuff. That's dangerous thinking, and you're harming people. There's people that lost their family, that lost their children. That's what bothers me so much about those types of conspiracies. Or what the Vegas shooter, you guys remember that, right? With the fella that was up in the hotel room shooting everybody, and then they come out with all kinds of conspiracies about why and who and how. As far as the 9/11 conspiracy stuff goes, the main thing I remember is the memes. Jet fuel can't melt steel beams, those memes, which of course it doesn't have to melt it. We talked about this. We did, what was that movie we did, Ethan? Was it Zeitgeist?
Zeitgeist, yeah.
Yeah, where they talked about 9/11 and delved into some of the physics of it. But Andrew, do you got numbers on that or anything that we can look at? I know the 9/11.
Well, just think about the two planes that hit the Twin Towers. That's 90 tons of just the airplane. The first plane hit at 466 miles per hour, dead center. You have a 90-ton object hitting the North Tower directly in the center, and then you have most of that jet fuel going into the center columns where all the elevators are, and it actually did shoot down through the 77th floor to the lobby, because a lot of conspiracy theorists say that some of the windows were broken up because the guy who shot the first plane, I don't know how he got the first plane. He was doing a documentary, but yeah, there's 10,000 gallons of jet fuel, and it's got to go somewhere, and it went through. It's just catastrophic what happened. But when you think about what 10,000 gallons of explosion could do to a building, then you can understand how those buildings were not designed to handle that.
Oh yeah,
No.
I definitely agree with you there. The meme, that's why that was a meme, really, is because it doesn't have to melt them, it just has to heat them up enough that they're more malleable, that they can bend, and then the whole thing comes down. Because once you take that stress factor away, and you got to keep that in mind too, like you said, adding 90 tons of weight onto those beams as well, and then heating them up like that, it's amazing that it stood as long as it did.
It is, and when you look at the first building, it hit between 93 to 99, and no one survived above the 92nd floor. So there was damage to the floor below that when the plane hit initially, and no one was able to leave that stairwell, and then you got 200 people that jumped from the building. So the fires were so bad that they had to choose: I can suffocate, I can burn to death, or I could jump and kill myself. So
All right.
that's how
Real
bad
quick,
these
before we
fires
go
were.
too much further, I want to thank you, Keith Heath for the $5 super chat. Getting vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine shot tomorrow. With this post, I'm participating in the vaccine visibility and normalization. Thank you, Keith. Get vaccinated.
thank you
I got
very much,
vaccinated
Keith.
2 weeks ago. I haven't, my chip hasn't activated or anything, so I'm still good. All right, Andrew, continue. So no one survived.
Yeah, and with the second plane, it hit at 586 miles per hour. And I did a lot of research, which the conspiracy theorists will say that it is impossible for an airplane to go, a 767 to go at that speed, which is technically accurate, but it was descending at 6,000 feet per minute. So it's because of its downward trajectory that it was doing that. Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Adding
that.
This isn't a professional pilot. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there was some joke also about that, and I think maybe it was Kenneth that said it, that they went to learn how to fly, but they weren't interested in learning how to land. That's the people who trained them said that. I don't know how true that is. I'm being hyperbolic with it, but and you said something about the plane that hit the Pentagon, right? That some people say that plane didn't exist at all because there was no video footage of it. I've heard that as well.
Well, there is a security cam footage. It's not frame by frame. It goes like, I think, one frame every second. It's like a still image. But remember, they're not going to have cameras pointed at the wall of the Pentagon. They're going to have cameras inside the Pentagon. And remember, if they say it's a missile, this happened right around the freeway area. So you have dozens of witnesses who saw the plane. And then it hit a few light poles, the wing. So you're not going to shoot a missile at the Pentagon in front of witnesses at a major intersection on a interstate freeway. It's just insane that these people think this way.
You know, and instead of I get exploring the conspiracies themselves, I'm kind of interested in exploring the conspiracy phenomenon and why people, because it seems to be a suite of ideas that people will buy into, batch together. And I don't want to get too political on the show here, but there seems to be a specific direction of ideologies that lean towards being conspiracy minded. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
I think it's just hard to see two buildings collapse with people in them, two skyscrapers collapse, and then you got the Pentagon getting hit. And then remember, it took about an hour for the roof to collapse on the Pentagon. And just to see that, and then you got Flight 93, you got 4 airplanes being hijacked in less than an hour, and you got 3 of them hitting targets. And I think they're just not doing enough research or they're looking at maybe that Zeitgeist video, but they're not doing the other research. They're not seeing the videos of the people leaping to their deaths from the Twin Towers because the fires are so catastrophic.
Yeah, and that's what's so sad about it, because it trivializes the tragedy. And as Brian said, that you can go across the board. It doesn't matter particularly which conspiracy you look at. The psychology behind the people who engage in them tends to follow the same pattern. And it's such a shame when there are real tragedies going off that people are more concerned about trying to get their own truth out there than these real tragedies that have happened and where this great loss of life has occurred.
Yeah, it kind of deflects from reflection on what actually happened too. It makes it hard for these people to move on with their lives when they're constantly bombarded. You know, it's one thing to lose a family member and then to be bombarded with people saying they were part of some kind of conspiracy. It's really got to be exhausting. And people, I mean, at this point in time, I think most everybody knows somebody at least that's related to that was in New York that day or experienced that somehow. So to have firsthand experiences of this event that accessible, and you're talking New York City, it wasn't just, a few hundred people that saw this. This was millions of people that witnessed this. All this go down, surely tens of thousands down in the street saw it happen live, and then it was a terrible tragedy. I can't wrap my head around how it's so accessible for people to talk to individuals who were involved in this, and they still think that all these people are lying. All right.
When you look at Flight 93, it landed up the hijackers, because the passengers knew that the other three, that the North Tower, the South Tower, and the Pentagon were hit. So they were calling their loved ones, and they knew that, oh my gosh, we got to take over the airplane, or we're going to wind up dead. They're going to crash this plane somewhere. So they were attacking the cockpit, and the passenger in the, what was his name, Ziad Jarrah, he kept waving the plane around, but once he knew that the passengers were almost in the cockpit, he flew the plane upside down, and that's why that crash scene has that big hole. That's why there's very little debris, because the plane hit, I think, around 530 miles an hour upside down. And when you look at other plane crashes, they don't crash upside down in a coal mine. So you have to look at all the evidence and see, okay, this is why that plane was 40 feet. It buried itself technically in the ground. It crashed upside down. Usually when planes crash, they're not upside down.
Right.
So it's just, you guys do the research.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we appreciate your call, Andrew. If you come up with some more information and you want to share it, we are here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. Central. So feel free to give us a call.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
All right,
Andrew,
thank you for taking my call. Great talking to you. Thanks.
Oh. All right. Next up, unless you had anything you wanted to pop in there in between, Richard, real quick, do you got anything coming up in the next week or so?
No, we're on tomorrow. We've got the weekly podcast coming out. That's Skeptic Hangout that I do with Laura McGee and Richard Gill. And that's it. And next week I've got a really busy week doing lots of things with Ethan, which I'm really looking forward to. But that's next week, so we'll get onto that then.
Welcome to the friendly neighborhood. All right, we got Bo on the line. Life requires information, therefore an author. Okay, are you with us, Bo?
I'm here. Good to talk to you again, Brian.
Hey, good to talk to you. We've talked before about was it about the same topic?
It was not. It was about origins. I had kind of gone into the first and second law of thermodynamics, talking about the origin of the universe.
Okay. Yeah.
And
what do we got?
So today I just wanted to kind of stay on the same premise as far as origins, and speaking more generally to the topic of the origin of life. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts for how the coded scheme of biological information can be explained through strictly material processes, like where you're going to take an amino acid and assign a symbolic representation to it. But what I'm asking is, how would strictly material processes explain how to originate the scheme for a protein sequence onto a DNA molecule? So you encode a protein onto DNA as a set of instructions for how to build that protein. Do you guys have any thoughts on how that could happen naturally?
Does it have to be explained? What does it mean if we can't explain it naturally?
Well, I don't think there's a natural explanation for it. I think it's impossible.
Why do you think it's impossible?
I mean,
how would you demonstrate impossibility?
Well, I think by pointing out the absurdity of it, like saying it's like trying to figure out how to give self-awareness to a computer. I mean, it's absurd to even think where to start, how you would engineer consciousness. Consciousness isn't physical.
What do you mean engineer a consciousness?
It's absurd to think that atoms and energy could come up with an information scheme necessary for life.
So engineering consciousness, that's an interesting concept. What do you? And you, I'm assuming that you think that, or that you believe that consciousness is something that exists separate from in biological organism, like
I
a
would.
dualist.
I wasn't trying to take the topic to consciousness. I was just trying to use that as an example of something that I don't even think we could even start to come up with a rough proposal how we would do that. And I'm just applying that to how energy and atoms and molecules couldn't possibly come up with a logic scheme.
So even sorry to repeat myself, but even if we can't come up with that, what does that mean? The thing I'm not getting here is you're saying that this isn't not possible. We can't do this. We can't explain this. And Brian's probably a better person to explain this than I can, if any of us can. But even if we can't, what does that mean? It seems like you want to bump onto something else from that.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying that life is information based, and I mean, if natural processes can't explain it, and say the Christian position has a positive answer for that, you know, an intelligent.
What positive answer does the Christian position have? Sorry, Brian.
Oh, sorry. Is a having an answer or not having an answer, or having a right answer or having a wrong answer more important to you?
Having a right answer.
That's the most important thing to me too. So people can propose solutions for all kinds of things. They can tell you that the lightning is Zeus up in the clouds throwing it down, but until they can demonstrate it with some kind, and that's a good analogy too, because there was a time where we didn't know about these natural forces and we did attribute them to supernatural causes, and then we learned later that they weren't. So based on explanation, there's Bandaid. Based on the explanations that we have so far, through inductive reasoning, we can the best conclusion would be that whether we know the mechanisms or not, that this was caused by natural forces, because that's always been the answer that we've come up with before.
Yeah, and one thing I try to stay consistent about is what we know currently, based on what we know. You know, currently what the current logic is, and you know, I mean, if we had if I wrote down 3 letters on a piece of paper, would we say that the pattern is based on, say, the laws of chemistry or the laws of physics, or the intent of the author, whoever wrote those letters down?
Okay, so chemistry is based on the laws of physics, so it all comes down to physics. The reasons that different chemicals react the way that they do together. So yeah, physics would be
the letters on the paper. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. Maybe I misunderstood your analogy.
Well, I'm just saying, if I were to write the letters BAG down on a piece of paper, is that pattern based on a physical law, or is the pattern based on my intent as an author?
Oh, that would be, yeah, your intent, because you would have thought to write down BAG. Yeah. So that'd be intentional.
Right.
That'd be.
But we know people write things down.
That's kind of
This is going back to the whole thinking. We know people write things down. We know people can create patterns. What we don't know is beyond the beginning how life exactly formed. We don't know that. So how are we getting from that to a being that's created something? How are we jumping from we don't know to this being has created things? We know people create things all the time.
So, and to piggyback off that a little bit, we see written languages, and we know we've devised written languages. What the difference between that and codons is that we interpret the language in codons. We interpret that and we assign letters to that. Whereas with our alphabets and stuff, we've created that. So we've prescribed those letters values. Whereas when it comes to DNA, we described those values. It's a kind of a category difference.
Well, yeah, our language is based on letters being arbitrarily assigned something. It's based on intent. It's not based on physical laws. You know, kind of like the ASCII code of a computer, right? The computer doesn't see an A. The program sees a 65, and our genetic code is kind of identical in concept to the ASCII code. It's symbolic. It's the arrangement of the logic that kind of drives the instructions. And if the laws of physics and the laws of chemistry have no symbolic logic function, I think that overwhelmingly points to the intent of an author.
So
I'm just curious as to what if that is a code, if it's a logic scheme.
So there's other than our biological systems, which we can look at the DNA and you can see the coding of the DNA. And again, like I said, there may be a fundamental disagreement there on whether that's a prescriptive or descriptive code. But other aspects of the reality that we live in, are we seeing codes everywhere, or just in biology? And if it's just in biology, why does biology require a code but the rest of the mechanics of the universe don't?
I don't know that the rest of the mechanics of the universe don't, but I mean, in biology, I think we definitely see it. I mean, is there a naturalist explanation for how you would originate the scheme for a protein sequence onto a DNA molecule? I mean,
I wouldn't have that information here, and off the top of my head, that's not something I would know. I do like science, but I don't know all the intricacies of molecular cell biology or DNA coding or anything like that. But it is something I'd be willing to look into if you were going to call back and talk about it. If you wanted to send me some papers on that or whatever, I can definitely look into it, but I don't have the resources right here, right now to delve into DNA coding and stuff, unfortunately. But if you want to talk more general concepts, we can keep going, but that's up to you.
Yeah, I don't want to misrepresent myself either. I'm definitely not a molecular biologist or anything like that. I am just trying to keep it at the general level.
So I appreciate that you're going down this scientific route and trying to understand the science, and that that's really good. I'm really glad you're doing that. What I'm interested in, and Brian's just piqued my mind here by mentioning the scientific papers. Are there any scientific papers that point to God done it? Are there any scientific papers that you can bring up that have been published in a reputable journal, that have been peer reviewed, that can actually go in and say this does point to an author?
I mean, I don't have one specifically, but I'm sure I could find dozens of papers on the information law that I think is there one that comes out and says because biological life requires this logic scheme that there's God in a peer-reviewed paper? I probably doubt it.
So why are you forming this conclusion then? Because it seems that on one hand you're saying, can it be explained by nature? Can the science we currently have that deals with this sort of stuff, can that explain it and put it down as a naturalistic thing? But on the other hand, you're saying, but I don't think there's anything there that actually points to this alternative, which I'm proposing. So I'm interested in this kind of discrepancy that you seem to be having here.
Well, my big point is that information is not physical, and so with an understanding of physics and of information, that affirmatively demonstrates that the laws of physics and the laws of chemistry don't contain the symbolic logic. I mean, so logically, doesn't that point to an intelligent actor?
Quick question about information, because I want to kind of define our terms here. How do we as humans gather information? I mean, if you had to infer that.
Well, I'd say lots of ways. I mean, I can go back to my example of me writing, BAG. I mean, you can't necessarily look at it.
Okay, but it's through our senses, right? It's through our senses that we experience the world, and that information is imported, right? That's where the information that's in our brain, all of it came through one of our senses at some point. Well, I shouldn't say all of it. There are some things that are innate to each individual organism, certain behavioral genetic things that are passed on to them. But other than that, all the information that we receive comes in through our senses. So if you ask where the information comes from, I'm going to say senses, because all information that I know is always interpreted through our senses, through human senses or animal senses.
Which one of your senses tells you that, though? Which one of your senses tells you that everything we can know about information comes through your senses, your 5 senses?
Well, which information didn't come from my senses? I'm being deductive here, I guess.
I'm saying that specific assertion that you made. You asserted that we can only know that the only information we can get through is through our 5 senses. Which one of your 5 senses led you to that conclusion? I guess is what I'm asking.
Oh, I guess that it would be a combination of all my senses, because it would be my worldly experience that I've had with those senses.
Okay, but I mean, would you say it's your sense of sight that led you to conclude that you can only know?
Yeah, because my sense of sight would have let me read information about the nature of the world, so the sight would have imported that information. And I think my sight was probably one of the prominent ones, because I also used it to observe like animal life and see how evolution took place, to look at the geology and see how the Earth was looks like it was formed, and how it changed over time. I've used my sight to infer so much data about the world. So yeah, my sight would definitely be a one, but I also like listening to audiobooks. So I've listened to so much David Attenborough that you would probably make you sick. So that's definitely imported into my brain through my audible senses. Other things, of course, you learn real early on not to touch hot things, but yeah, that's stored somewhere in here too, is that don't put your hand on that, you'll burn yourself. So all my senses have contributed to.
That's your logic and your reason. It's not your hearing and it's not your sight. It's your logic. It's your reason.
Well, that's me. That's how I interpret it. Once the information's inside, that's how I interpret it, is with the logic, which is a function of my brain.
Right, which isn't physical though. The logic and the laws of logic aren't physical.
No, yeah, it's a emergent property of the electrical and chemical activity going on up in there.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I guess what I called for was just to see if you guys had any thoughts. If you guys could offer up a material explanation for, if life is information based and based on a logic scheme, do you have any proposals for how that would come about through natural processes?
I have no idea, and I don't think that we really need to. I think as the onus seems to be getting a balance of propositions, and if you're going to propose something, I think we need to evidence it. At the minute, it seems that we're going down this route of you're saying, well, you haven't got an answer, therefore God. That's how it's coming through, but you're not really offering anything for God other than you don't have an answer.
Well, I'm not offering an explanation from incredulity. I'm saying it's a positive answer. I'm saying that it has to be an intelligent being based on everything.
Why though? You've not demonstrated why it has to be intelligent.
Well, I mean,
your demonstration of what it needs to be intelligent seems to be you don't have an answer.
And recognize that takes an intelligent actor.
Are you a programmer or work in programming?
No, sir.
Okay. I was just wondering because of the language you're using is computer programming language, so I was interested.
I just found this as a fascinating evidence for a creator, and I've kind of really delved into it for probably the last 3 or 4 years. Probably about the first time I heard about it, but I think it's a really strong evidence for a creator based on what we know about information. I mean, we know that a computer logic scheme requires intelligence. Therefore, I think we can apply that to the biological life scheme.
As an analogy, though, right? As an analogy, they're not homogenous. What's the word I'm looking for? Homologous. They're analogous. They're similar but different, right? So to assume that because they're similar, that they have the same source could lead you astray to make that leap, don't you think?
I don't know. I think our genetic code's pretty identical to, say, a computer code. So if a computer code needs an intelligence.
Okay. I mean, I think I fundamentally disagree on that. Unfortunately, we're kind of running low on time. I do invite you to call back, though. I enjoyed this conversation. I think as we talked more, it came back to me how we talked before. So, yeah, keep calling back because these are good topics, good things to talk about. And I think that the people at home are enjoying learning about these things and waxing over these ideas. Richard, did you have any closing statements for our friend here?
No, I'm glad you called it. The more we get to talk about these things, the more we can investigate them together, and that's what I'm all about. I want to go into things and investigate them together. I'm not about animosity or anything like that. So, yeah, thank you for calling in. Do appreciate it.
Right.
No,
looks.
And I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you have a good one. Looks like we have Felix on the line from Texas. Western ritual magic is real and has an effect on the world. That sounds amazing. Let's dig in. Felix, you're on with Richard and Brian. How's it going? And what do you got for us?
It's going well, gentlemen. I hope your evening's going well as well. Well, I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what Western ritual magic is and how it works in a sense, and how it kind of throws some things into some interesting questions once you get there. For example, I guess we should probably start off with what Western ritual magic is. And Western ritual magic, really you can trace back more towards Egypt, and obviously from Egypt you can trace things back to Mesopotamia. But it's the idea of ritual creating a ritual will cause an effect that the ritual does not directly cause. Like, if the ritual is pouring water into a cup, to create the effect is not pouring water in a cup. When I say that, like, do you follow me so far?
Yeah, it's I know what rituals are. Yeah, you're symbolically doing something to cause an effect in the real world. Yeah, pouring the water in a cup might make somebody pee their pants or something. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, I guess if you wanted to perform a ritual like that, you could. How it generally works is your ritual is designed to get you into sort of almost a hypnotic or suggestible state. And by doing that, it allows you to access the things that are, for lack of a better term, unseen. I'm not a theist, and I don't have to be a theist to practice ritual magic. It's not required. It's not part of it. You don't have to worship an entity. What you are doing is...
Can I just ask you to stop just 1 second? I just want to...
Sure thing.
I'm with you to a certain point. I can fully accept that getting yourself into a state or doing something ritualistically can get you into a zone or a mood where you can be positively influenced or negatively influenced, depending what it is psychologically, by that thing. How do we get there from there to magic? And what are you specifically meaning by magic?
Okay, well, let's define magic first before we get to how we get there. Magic is an effect that was not caused by direct action.
Using the metaphysical to interact with the physical world.
Yes, using the metaphysical to interact with the world would be a succinct description of it.
Okay, sounds pretty testable, though, huh?
It is testable in some ways, but it's not testable in other ways because you can't be skeptical and make it work.
Why not?
Because if you're skeptical, then you're not getting yourself into that hypnotic state.
Why not?
Because you can't be skeptical while you're hypnotized. I mean,
I can remain skeptical when I'm in deep in meditation.
Pardon?
I can remain skeptical when I'm in a deep meditative state. I can suspend the attributes of the kind of physical world around me to get the feelings and of things and still remain skeptical. That is a huge part of meditation. Actually asking yourself things and delving into those questions to a really subtle level.
Yep.
So I disagree there.
Meditation is not self-hypnosis, though.
Sorry?
I don't mean to interrupt. But meditation is not self-hypnosis.
But they're very similar.
They're two different. Well, they're similar, but I mean, a rock is similar to a building, but a rock is not a building.
So let's walk through how they're different then, and let's walk through how they're different,
Okay.
and let's walk through what the differences are, which enable this to take place, and how skepticism has to be suspended in hypnotism, where it doesn't in meditation. Walk me through the process,
All
please,
right.
if you don't mind.
Well, hypnotism is letting down your mental defenses. You will remove a lot of sense of your preconceptions, environments, and follow suggestions because you have let down your defenses. You have let down your skepticism about this person's intentions or whether or not hypnotism is real, etc.
I just want to ask a quick clarifying question and then I'll let it continue. Are we talking self-hypnosis or specifically hypnosis on someone else?
Generally, for ritual magic, for willing participants, it's going to be self-hypnosis.
Let me just step in here because aren't both of these? Is it delta bit brainwaves, hypnosis and meditation? You kind of slip into that stage where, say, your delta brainwaves are functioning, kind of the same brain state, if you will.
Not being a neurosurgeon or a brain scientist in any way, I'm just going to have to say, I'm not really sure how you quantify those different states and whether or not looking at someone who is hypnotized versus someone who is meditating is going to look different on like a brain scan.
I'm sorry, it was gamma. Gamma is the one. Yeah, but we'll continue on because I want to know more about how we conclude that when we do magic, and we've talked about this on the show several times. Magic is one of our favorite things to talk about because it's so, prevalent. But how do we differentiate what's magical from what was, already going to happen? And how do we differentiate between priming your brain to experience the things that are happening as the result of our actions, as opposed to just what's happening in the natural world?
Well, I don't see the necessity of doing that as a practitioner.
Okay.
It's sort of like saying, what's the difference between, fate and free will, and can you prove that you have either? it's kind of one of those questions that's not relevant to making it work.
Okay.
For example, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I really don't have, I mean, there's not much, I get what you're saying, that the principles of, when I used to hang around with New Age people, the principles was that if you let doubt slip in that it's going to work, it doesn't work, and things like that. So you wouldn't, if as a practitioner, you wouldn't want to allow yourself to be skeptical of the ritual or whatever magic you were working. And am I right there? Is that your way of thinking about it?
Very much correct. That's very much correct.
We do have a super chat real quick while we got a second from Secular Rarity. That's for $5. Richard and Brian have done so awesome. I love this channel. I'm really enjoying being on here with Richard. We've had some great calls tonight. So appreciate all the callers, including yourself, Felix. But go on with what you were saying.
All right. So basically, as to how magic works, if I could explain how magic works, it wouldn't be magic. It would be science. You know, you could say like X causes effect Y every time, and this is a principal certainty.
So can you give us an example of this magic then?
Okay. Like, say I want someone to reach out and call me. I would practice a ritual to make them think about me. And when practicing that ritual, generally that person will call me within 24 hours.
Right. So, I have a friend who pretty much every time I phone her says, I knew you were going to call me. But I speak to her quite often. It's not out of the ordinary. It seems to hear like we're applying positive discrimination. How can you demonstrate?
They call you all the time. That's not really something that you would need to do ritual to create.
We've just had a super chat come in. Philip Leitch has just asked the same question I was just about to ask you. So we're going to, I'll ask it on his behalf, seeing as he's very kindly paid $5 to ask it. Demonstrate that even a non-skeptical person can have an effect on anything with magic.
Demonstrate? It doesn't work like that. It's not a parlor trick. There are some people who have been advanced enough to be able to do that. I am not one of them. Aleister Crowley, for example, was Crowley has this famous instance where he started moving like a man who was moving across the street, walking in that same manner. And then he caused that man to fall through his own actions by changing them. And he was across the street from the person. Now, whether or not you want to believe that happened is completely up to you, but that would be an example of a demonstration. Now that person is a really deeply intensive, that's the only thing that he does with his life is study magic.
Can it really be said to be a demonstration if it's down to whether you believe it or not, though? Surely a demonstration by its very nature is something that would be shown whether you believe it or not. If I ask you to demonstrate that you can shoot a target at 300 yards, there's a way to do that, and that's by shooting a target at 300 yards. It's irrelevant whether I believe that you can do it or not. If you demonstrate that you can do it, then I'm convinced.
Well, I don't know how I would demonstrate something like that over the phone without any intention of wanting it. Part of the thing about magic is you have to have some focus. And focusing on something like a parlor trick is not, at least for me personally, is not going to be anything that's going to cause me to get that sense to where I am trying to surrender my personality into the universe enough to have my will become effective.
Surrender your personality in the universe so that your will becomes effective. Talk me through that statement.
Okay. When you perform a ritual that, especially more intense rituals, some rituals are fairly light and they're just like, good luck, whatever. But like to perform a long ritual that's very specific, you're going to usually cause yourself to enter into a different state of consciousness. And in that state of consciousness, the idea is that you're surrendering parts of your individuality by accepting the fact that you are not, by accepting the fact that you're not alone as a spiritual entity.
You sounded very much like meditation now.
Pardon?
You sounded very much like you're talking about meditation.
Do you practice meditation, Felix?
Do I practice meditation as well? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But
so
when I practice
you could tell us what the
meditation,
differences are.
I'm thinking of a question or a problem or something of that nature. Ritual tends to be a way to lower your defenses as far as like how you perceive the world, how you believe what is possible and what is not possible. And the idea of ritual is to get past those parts of you that cause that skepticism, that cause that doubt, that also war within yourself. Because you can't create a good ritual if you're stressed or upset or feeling torn about things.
I'm still not seeing anything that I don't recognize from meditation. Yeah, I appreciate you trying to explain it, and I appreciate it's quite a difficult thing to explain, but I'm still not seeing any specific language or any specific hints that it's anything other than meditation that you're talking about.
Ritual comes across a lot like a psychodrama too, like an enacting some sort of demonstration of what you're wanting to happen, or something symbolic of what you want to happen, and just going through those steps while you're in that sort of mindset. Is that right?
That's a very good description. Yeah. Like, okay. Especially if you're doing like something sumatragic or Ludon or something like that, where you're literally working with a symbol that you wish to affect that represents an object or a person.
All right, I'm gonna let you and Richard let Richard respond to you here, and then you get the last response on that, and we got to wrap up for the night. So you boys go at it.
No, I don't think there's any going out. It's been a very good conversation, which I've appreciated. I'd love to talk to you again. I'd love to have more time on this conversation. I want to get past this this barrier I've got with what you're saying, and I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that it's anything. It's not you. It's me. I'm just not getting past this barrier. I want to get past this barrier that I'm having with the things you're saying. So I'd love it if I'm on again, if you could call back and talk to me again about it.
It would be my absolute pleasure. You've been a joy to talk to. I like it when I talk to people who are not hostile, but inquisitive.
Thank you. We appreciate you as well. Thanks.
I would say the main difference that I see between meditation and ritual is that usually meditation does not involve physical activity. With the exception of people who use things like analogous sort of lyrically, someone reads the cards as meditation. But generally, because a ritual requires timing and requires some preciseness, it's not quite the same as meditation, or at least it's not the same as meditation that I learned through martial arts or through yoga.
Okay. This is a conversation I'd love to continue. I really hope you phone back again if I'm on the show again. It'll be really nice to speak to you again.
It would absolutely be my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Right. Felix, we look forward to your call back. You have a nice night.
You too, guys.
Thanks.
And we got one more super chat in here too. Yes, I'm real. I don't know what that means, but thank you for the $2.
So, Richard, wait, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Okay. What'd you think of your first show?
I've loved it. The variety of calls has been amazing. It was far more varied than I expected it to be. I expected a couple of ghosts and a couple of alien calls. It's been a baptism by fire.
We run the gamut.
That's like what I want for every show. Like, I want to go from Christianity to ghosts to aliens to skepticism, like everything, you know.
And never to presuppositional apologetics. Never.
Yeah, no, actually, never. Or maybe occasionally we'll sprinkle that in. I don't know. But yeah, I like this variety, and I like when the calls are friendly and, you know, establishing rapport, you know, with the callers. Like, most of them end up on my Facebook chat afterwards, like, because I'll find them through Facebook. So for those who don't know, starting a show doesn't automatically mean people will call the show. I learned that at first. So I started putting in the work. I joined a bunch of groups. I start posting, letting people know topics, asking them to call in. When they reply, I will ask if I can send them a message. If I get consent to send them a message, I will then ask to send them a voice message where I'll explain how the show works, because I don't ever want anybody to call in and be cut off guard, because some people do take questions personally. So I try to make sure anybody calling into my show knows that there will be questions. It will be a back and forth dialogue. But today we got some random ones too, which was great. And we got so many super chats. So thank you, everyone, for your generosity. Also, make sure if you haven't, like and subscribe. And I'd like to thank my top tier patrons: Cindy Plaza, Kenneth, Leonard, Kathy Letto, JumpandShoot, Oz, Secular Rarity, Chianti and Fava Beans, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard, Gilliver, Sunset, Sarge. All of you are awesome. Well, actually, you know, real quick, I'll just normally you only like. Well, I'll just thank them all real quick. Also, Kyle, Brewer, Katie Stewart, Best Name Ever, The Blazing Wizard Pope, Edith, Jason Hamner, Free Thinker, and Amit Matthew. All of you are awesome. And it helps because, for those who don't know, it costs money to run a call-in show. You have to pay a monthly fee for the phone numbers you hold. Then you have to pay fairly expensive, you know, line connection fees for each caller. Yeah, so it helps. And one day I already do a lot of shows, but once I'm able to eventually I don't know if this will ever happen, but it's my goal to be able to do this full time, because then there's so much more I want to do. Like, make way for the 24-hour Skeptic Network. That's going to happen. Hell yeah, man, because that's what we need. Yeah, and it's going to have, like, I want so much more variety. Like, I want to get movie reviews, game reviews, tech breakdowns. Like, there is so much we can do with the name Skeptic or Atheist on it, which I think helps normalize atheism. We don't just have to, you know, talk religion. We could do other stuff too. Anyways, yeah, Richard, what do you got going on?
I've got just my usual Skeptic Takeout show, which the next episode is about cults. I think the difference between religions and cults. But when that's airing, I'm not sure. Every week we have Skeptic Hangout, as I've said, with me, Laura, and the other Richard. That's always great fun. We've just had Jenna Belk on. That's going to be airing tomorrow. That she's our first guest. We all really love Jenna, and it was a fantastic show to record. That's airing tomorrow, or today for me, because I'm in the future, keeping it sci-fi. Yeah, so, and I'm hoping to do more things like this. I want to come on and talk to more people, get skepticism out there, get thinking out there.
You did a great job tonight, Richard. I had so much fun.
Yeah, I was looking forward. It's funny because when Ethan did the line test a couple of months ago, he asked me who I'd like to be on with. And I was like, you know, when you have a complete brain fart and you just forget everything. And I was like, that guy, the science guy with the bugs, what's his name? But yeah, I've loved it. You were I'm really looking forward to it for so long because of my scheduling. It's been so long for me to get here to start off. So
I'm so glad I got to be on with you and Laura. This has been really great couple of weeks to be able to do this with you guys.
Oh, yeah. So next week, Laura's going to be back on. It'll be Laura and me. The week after, Kenneth Leonard will be returning. I'm actually... Oh, wait, I'm working on a couple of guests, so that'll be exciting. I forgot what else I was going to say. Oh, speaking of Jenna, I have a podcast with Jenna Belk every Sunday on mental health. And this Sunday, because I am going to Austin, Texas for the weekend, I'm going to get to meet all of them, and Jenna Belk and I are going to do the show together. So that's going to be super cool. Brian, what do you have going on?
This Saturday, I'm going to be streaming about Spider-Man. So yeah, check that out. Just some fun stuff. I like to use bug stuff to talk about science. So look forward to that. Also got more of the bee mimic stuff, and I am on the Prometheans network, or the Promethean. Someone dropped the link in the chat there tomorrow night, and we're going to be talking about bees. So,
Brian, make sure you send me a reminder so I can join the chat. Thank you, everyone, for watching as well. And then we are going to jump over to Discord. If you want to join us, you're welcome on the voice chat. You can ask us any questions or talk about whatever. Thanks again, Richard, Brian. We'll see you all next week.
Yep. Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'm in a new place, and I want to give everyone a quick tour. Walk-in closet, bedroom, spare, bathroom with a big bathtub, and the place is a mess. I apologize. I just moved in a couple days ago. Crap is everywhere, so please don't think I'm a slob. Kitchen, front room, and downstairs where the basement is and the studio. So it's not really fully set up yet. What I'm gonna do is most likely put it in the corner and put the sound foam things on the wall. Yeah. Hope everyone's having a good day. I'm busy. It's so much work.